To me, our modern society seems to be obsessed with death, or at least obsessed with finding ways to avoid it. We constantly hear about the latest medication or diet or workout craze that will help to keep us healthy and could even extend our life. Many people are obsessed with avoiding death, which is pretty understandable. Lesson 10 of the Way of Christ doesn't avoid death. In this lesson on the 4 last things and life after death, we are getting into the big questions about what happens when we die. We might be obsessed with avoiding death, but we know we can't escape it. So in this lesson, we're going to get ourselves ready for the next life by talking about what happens when we move on. The title of this lesson is The 4 Last Things. The 4 last things are death, judgment, heaven, and hell. Death. Quite simply, death is when the soul separates from the body. I know that's not a medical definition, it's a philosophical and theological definition. A person dies when the soul leaves the body. That's the first of the last things. It is the end of the person's life on earth, but just the beginning of the next stage. And where does the soul go? Well, Hebrews 9:27 tells us, after death, then the judgment. After a person dies, Christ, the high priest, king, and judge, judges whether that person will live forever in heaven or suffer in hell. So that judgment is a big moment. The thing is, we can pretty much predict how our judgment will go. If we're in a state of grace, Christ will judge us favorably. Being in a state of grace means that we are friends of God, and God's friends go to heaven. But if we are in a state of grave sin, well, then we are no longer enjoying God's friendship, and enemies of God don't get to go to heaven. That, by the way, is why confession is so important, because it restores us to a state of grace so that we can enter heaven. In the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 25, Jesus gives us the image of the sheep and the goats. Jesus tells us that the sheep will be gathered on his right and the goats on his left. The sheep are the ones who have lived a life of charity, while the goats are the ones who have ignored charity. The sheep inherit the kingdom, the goats are cast into the eternal fire. Of course, those goats could have gotten their DNA exchanged to become sheep with just one good confession. The last 2 of the 4 last things are heaven and hell. Heaven is the state of everlasting union with God, which fills the person with perfect happiness and joy. Basically, think of the happiest times of your life. That's nothing compared to the joy of heaven. Hell, on the other hand, not so happy. Hell is the eternal separation from God. Jesus describes it as a never-ending fire. It's full of sorrow and grief and even physical pain. A lot of people imagine that a good God like ours couldn't just let people end up in hell. But Jesus is very clear. God allows us to commit sins. He doesn't impose his will upon us in a violent way, but without repentance, hell would be the consequence. But again, baptism and reconciliation reroute us toward eternal life in heaven. Now, there's one more thing we need to talk about: purgatory. Notice that purgatory is not traditionally included as one of the last things. That's on purpose. Catholics believe in purgatory, but purgatory is not last. Here's the basic idea. First, anyone who goes to purgatory will afterward go to heaven. No one goes from purgatory to hell or stays in purgatory forever. Second, purgatory is best understood as the process of purification, of purging, for those souls who still bear the effects of sin. Purgatory is not a second chance or anything like that. It's the way in which our soul gets cleaned up to go to heaven. In order to understand this, think of some of the stories of the Old Testament. When God or an angel would communicate with a human being, that person usually turned away. knowing that he couldn't look upon God and live. That was no joke. Most of us, even if we're in a state of grace, aren't quite ready to look straight at God. We need some prep time. We need to get our spiritual eyes ready for it. And that's what purgatory does. It cleanses us to get us ready to see God. So that's it. That's the landscape of the afterlife. And now that we know the basics, we know just how important it is to keep ourselves on the right path, the one that leads through death and the judgment all the way to eternal life.
I'm Bishop Joseph Strickland. Thank you so much for viewing this episode of The Way of Christ. It is an excellent resource for growing in your Catholic faith, for deepening your life in Jesus Christ. You can purchase your own copy of The Way of Christ at stphilipinstitute.org/store. God bless you, and let us continue to grow in His light.